So I started this video with the verse that I live my life by, and that's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I say I live my life by that because that's literally how I walk through my life, believing and knowing that no matter what happens, what comes along, what's in the plans, what trials, tribulations, what people say, whatever task is at hand, I know I'm gonna be able to handle it because I have a greater strength that is astronomical that you can't even put into words. This video is a little different just because now I'm able to answer a multitude of questions, be able to clear up situations that people who know me or are close to me or not, maybe not, have had and asked me personally, like what happened, how did you end up where you are. Starting back in 2014 in December, I was playing for the University of Dayton. I was starting, I was a captain, I was a junior. Me and another one of my teammates came back from a away game at the University of Arkansas where we lost, 1, and 2, we just got back relatively early for coming home after a game. You know, normally if we come home after a game, we either, you know, coming back late, like 2 a.m., 1:30, or we're just staying to the next day. But for some reason, we came back kind of early tonight. So we got to campus, and my then fiance, who is now my wife, was asking me to come to her apartment, and I just didn't want to. You know, I was a little salty after the loss, and my teammate was just asked, like, hey man, let's go chill, let's go get a drink, whatever. And to put it in context, at this time, I wasn't focused on the Lord like I was supposed to be. You know, I grew up understanding who the Lord was and what he could do, you know, for me, but I never really took him serious just because I was still young. I was like 18, 19. My relationship with God wasn't built yet. I wasn't stable. I basically put myself in a situation where now me and my teammate had left, went to a local bar, drank, went to a dorm, a student dorm, and long story short, ended up taking some money from some kids, some cash, out of these kids' dorms. And this situation is easier to talk about now because 1, it's like 3 years old, you know, and 2, I've forgiven myself, my teammate. We've had communication back and forth, and he's apologized to me, I apologized to him for just putting each other in those type of situations, and we're just over it. You know what I mean? I've apologized to my wife, and she's forgiven me. I've openly apologized to the university, so you know I kind of put things to rest, you know, especially at this point. So it's easy for me to get these things out. So that situation happens. We take the cash. Long story short, we ended up the next day getting in trouble by our head coach, which is obvious. You know, you do something like that, you're 6'9", walking around in campus, somebody's gonna find out, and they're gonna know it's you. So my coach put it to me like this: like, either you leave and it be seen as, you know, you were just removed from the team, or you go through a long process. It just looked worse. So obviously I chose just to leave and blah blah. So me and my wife, now this is January, me and her are still living in Dayton, like 10 minutes from campus. I'm still well known as a player, so showing my face around Dayton is just not really an option for me. I'm highly ashamed of myself. Me and her just, you know, going back and forth about, you know, what we're gonna do, just, you know, what's my next move, things like that. You know, I'm talking to schools. Nothing's really happening legally yet, so I'm in a situation where it's January coming up on February. I did have a lawyer. He told me if nothing was to happen in the first 2 weeks, most likely nothing is going to happen. So obviously that time frame passes. We ended up moving to Atlanta where her mother lives, which was one of the best moves of my life. I was able to see a different aspect of life, and I say that as, like, now I'm living with her mother and her sister. But these are people I knew, obviously, but living with people is a total different story. My basketball future was up in the air. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know anything. I tried to remain confident, but I still hadn't turned to the Lord yet. You know, I prayed a little bit, but, you know, more or less I wasn't focusing on the Lord or what I was supposed to be doing in his name. Now I'm in a situation where I have 2 options. 1, I can work, just get a 9 to 5 and go from there, or I can continue to train. I choose to work because my wife has a job, and I don't want to be that guy that's just at home doing nothing, you know, basically a guy who's just eating off of her. So I choose to get a job. I get the job it's a 10-hour factory job where I'm working 4 p.m. to 2 a.m., which left Monday through Friday, which left no time for workouts, no time for anything. I was just literally go to work, get off, come home, go to sleep, wake up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and just wait to go to work again. for me, yeah, I was working, I was making money, but I realized like this isn't what I want to do in my life, so I'm not dedicating time to my craft. And it was killing me physically. Like the job, you got 2 15-minute breaks and you had to stand up the whole time outside of your breaks. So I'm standing up for 9.5 hours straight. So I was like, nah, I had to talk with my wife, and I just explained to her that, look, my future is going to be in basketball, and I need to be on top of my game, so when the door opens up, I'm ready to go. She agrees, and to her credit, she's always been, right there with me with the dreams and aspirations and things like that I have, whether it's basketball, things like this, whatever, just whatever I have going on, she's always right there with me. So she agreed, and we had some rough days, in Atlanta, just because, she's feeling the stress of my situation. And me and her handle stress 2 different ways. She kind of outwardly shows it, and I'm more or less internal. I kind of hold on my stress in and just kind of keep it moving. I'm looking for solutions left and right. She's dealing with that and putting it out, and she's just stressed and things like that. And I'm just like, all right, it'll be fine. She thinks I'm blowing it off, but more or less I'm just, trying to keep my composure. So I gave that job 2 weeks, and I was like, no, I can't do this. So then I get back into the groove of working out every day, 2-a-days, things like that, and I actually bump into 2 people that are now I consider like brothers to me. Blood doesn't make you family, loyalty does. And these guys were there for me when I needed people the most. They get me in a mode where now I have 2 guys who are my age, working hard, not for basketball, just in life. These guys are entrepreneurs. One guy has a clothing line, and the other guy is a newfound father and working hard and building his own life any way he wants, So I'm now in a situation where I have some source of motivation outside of myself. I'm a self-motivator, but it's always good having like-minded people around. That's what the Bible tells us. So I got these guys feeding me and I'm feeding them, so I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm moving forward. Then along comes a coach who's willing to work with me as far as knowing that my case is still open. Because it's, like I said, no legal action has happened one way or the other, so the situation hasn't been resolved yet, as far as I know. I really thought it was just going to be over with, but nothing's really happened yet, so I don't know. He tells me that, everything's going to be good, no matter what, we'll have a scholarship for you, we'll be able to work, things like that. And the school's in Arkansas. Not only am I leaving Ohio to Atlanta, now I'm leaving Atlanta to Arkansas, where I've never been before. Now I'm in a situation where I have to come to my wife and explain everything to her, and she's with it just because she wants to see me continue on, and she doesn't want to see the dream I have die. So she tells me, let's do it. Then March comes. I get a call from my lawyer. I'm out fishing. My lawyer hits me like, hey man, you got to get back to Ohio as fast as possible. I'm like, why? What happened? He's like, they indicted you 7 counts of burglary. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll make moves. So I go home immediately, tell my wife the situation. Her mom drives me and her to the halfway point. My mom picks us up from that point, drives us back to Ohio. I then turn myself in the next day to Dayton County Jail. I stayed that day, pretty much all day. My wife's family bailed me out. Now I'm sitting in a situation where not only do I have an open case, but we're dealing with felonies, where I can do prison time. So I'm looking at myself, what's going to happen? Like, what's up with your future? This happens in March. Nothing happens again until June, when my lawyer emails me their first deal, which was like 5 felonies and like 6 or 7 months or something like that in prison. I'm like, man, this is terrible. He emailed me right back like, hey, we're not going to take this. I'm just letting you know what's on the table. I'm like, all right, cool. He emails me the middle of July and says my co-defendant, who was my teammate, already took his deal. So now we're in a position where we just kind of have to play defense now. So they send us a deal where the felonies are down and the time is down. As long as I play a guilty. I show up on August 2nd to court. Now, my judge agreed that as long as I'm going to school, that he would wait until I was done with school to enforce anything, like as far as time served, whatever. Something happened between the time he said that to August 2nd to where he changed his mind. I didn't know about it. I'm sitting outside the courtroom waiting to go in, and me and my wife are just sitting there, and she starts crying and she's getting emotional. She's like, well, what if you go today? I'm like, I'm not going to go, don't worry. Just hold it together, we're going to be fine. Once again, I'm holding everything in because I got to be the one to hold my composure. But on the inside, I'm scared just like anybody else would. I'm now looking at a situation where I went from being a Division I athlete, just just coming off an Elite Eight run, captain on the basketball team, just in a great situation, to now looking at jail time. You know what I mean? Like the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So all that's hitting me at one time. I get up and go to the bathroom. I'm just looking at myself in the mirror. My son walks in, and he's like literally like 1.5 at the time, 2, something like that. And he just walks up to me and gives me a hug. Like it's like kids know, you know what I'm saying, when there's something wrong with their parents. He just walked up to me and gave me a hug, and I'm hugging him like he's my dad. I just broke down and started crying on his little shoulder. So I get myself together. I walk out the bathroom, and this is women. For all those women out there, sometimes you just gotta listen. My wife, she has a hard time listening to me. Like she act like I don't know what I'm talking. She's like, the meter's about to run out. I'm about to go downstairs to refill the meter. I'm like, just wait. If you're gonna get a ticket, you're gonna get a ticket. You might as well just wait to see what happens first and go out there then. She's like, oh, it's fine. I'll be right back. I'm gonna leave Devon with you. I'm like, you can't do that, because then if I get called to go to court, I can't bring him in there with me. She's like, all right, well, I'll take him with me. No less than 45 seconds later, they call my name to go in there, and the charges and everything, they're just going through the paperwork. And then the judge said, you gotta serve your time today, starting today. So my heart instantly drops, obviously. And it makes it worse because I turn around and my wife's not there, my son's not there, there's nobody there. So I'm like, but the news cameras are there. So I'm holding myself together just because I'm like, man, I'm not trying to be broken down, just heartbroken in front of these news cameras. They put me in handcuffs, they take me where, you know, you get processed in before you go to the actual jail. You gotta sign some papers and stuff. In between walking to the elevator where they take you to jail and the courtroom, my wife was standing there, and the cop was nice. He let me give her a kiss and stuff like that. They took me off to jail, where I spent 3 months. I spent 3 months in jail. My first night, I'm sitting there praying. I'm just like, you know, not even why is this happening, because I did it to myself. You know, that's one thing I always did, was admit guilt. I always did. You know, it's something that you can't blame it on anybody else. You made that decision yourself. Just sitting there praying, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Is there a reason for this? I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. God answers back. If you honestly seek God's face, if you honestly give a genuine effort to seek God, he'll respond. It's not always a voice back to you. Sometimes he speaks through situations. Sometimes he speaks through people, dreams, visions, whatever. It's different for different people in different situations. And normally, God doesn't talk directly to me. You know, I may hear him through someone else, or a word at church, or something like that. It's not necessarily always him talking directly to me, but in this situation, he did. He told me directly that you're in this position because you made basketball your God. Your God was basketball first, then everything else was second. It wasn't even basketball, then God, then, you know, it was just basketball, then mixed everything else, which was true. I made no time for nothing else but basketball. In college, they demand all your time, you know what I mean? And a little bit of time you have outside of that, you want to get some freedom, you want to chill, you want to see your friends, you just want to be a college student. I'm looking back, it's almost like I'm running through my life up until this point at the times where I should have been adjusting my lifestyle to fit what God had for me, but I'm putting myself now in positions where I'm compromising that. I'm putting myself in positions where I'm ignoring God's word. You know, not to mention, that night I had 3 signs. Before I left, my wife was telling me to come to her house. I didn't go. When I left the bar, the dorm we were going to, the guy just basically said a guy we were looking for wasn't in his room and stuff like that. Any other time, so we whatever, we'll just go home. But for some reason, we were so adamant, we were like, we'll just go up there anyway. Third, we were supposed to be meeting my teammate's cousin that night, and he ended up not even being able to come, but we ignored it. We ignored all 3 of those signs and just kept it moving. You know what I mean? Well, I did. He didn't get a call from my wife, but I ignored all 3 of those signs and kept it moving. And now I'm sitting in jail, realizing all of this. You know, it's hitting me all at one time. After this realization happens, this takes about like 30 minutes. I'm just running down the list in my mind, and then God comes to me again and tells me, like, look, you've been riding your whole life off the relationship of your parents. You've never built your own relationship with me. You've never figured out who I am as a God, or who you call yourself serving. So this is an opportunity for you to build your faith up to a point where you can no longer say you're ignorant about this or you don't know this. You have nothing but opportune time to build your faith and make a way for you to understand me. The next day I wake up and I realize you really don't have anything but time. You have 3 whole months where you can either sit and dwell on the situation or benefit. I said to myself, like, hey, okay, I did it to myself, but that doesn't mean this is it. That doesn't mean this is the end of the road for me, because I know that God can change any situation. I spend my days taking notes, reading, praying, fasting. I fasted for like a week, and that's hard because the food already sucks. So I fasted from sun up to sundown. I started doing all these things and realizing, like, I'm reading the Bible for what it is. I'm not putting myself in situations where it's things clouding or other opinions coming in. It's just me, you know, it's just me, the word, and God. That's it. I'm dealing with multiple cellmates at a time. You know, I have one cellmate one day, different guy come in for 2 weeks, and then there's a dude here there for just like 5-6 days. You know what I mean? So I'm dealing with a lot of different people. That whole time, these people are noticing me reading and things like that. And I'm not saying I'm like standoffish, like don't talk to me, but they recognize that I'm like dedicating myself to, asking me questions. One guy asked, he was like, can you teach me how to pray? He was like, I see people pray all the time, but I don't understand how it goes. He was a young cat, like 19. I taught him how to pray. We practiced. I was like, man, this is a conversation between you and your Heavenly Father, bro. You pray how you feel fit to pray. But at the same time, there's certain steps to take life-wise to make your prayer more efficient. Different people are coming in and out, and I realized at the end of the time, like, these are people that I had a hand in touching spiritually. What they do with that afterwards is on them, but they were telling me, like, man, thanks, I appreciate it. This is stuff I needed to know. This is what I want to know. Like, I appreciate you. So I'm grateful for that time. At the end of those 3 months, I'm now looking at myself in the mirror. You just did something that you never would have thought you'd been able to do. 1, 2, you're now stronger than you've ever been in your faith. And 3, you're able to carry this over into your family. Ever since little Devon came, that's always been my focus, being strong for my family, being able to make the best moves for my family. That goes back to that Philippians 4:13. I was able to do that whole situation based on the strength that God gave. Now I get out of that situation, and the coach that approached me before that is still there. He's like, man, everything's good, we're still here for you. And the whole time I'm just praying, like, man, this is a blessing that this situation is really still available, because who's going to take a guy who was just fresh out of jail across the country and give him a scholarship and say, and I'll play basketball? I'm at home for 2 weeks. My wife is already in Arkansas. She moved out there already. And then I go out there. And in those months, my faith was building. I was every day I was reading, stuff like that. I was just staying on top of my game. But my wife hated it out there. The coach had told me everything was going to be paid for. And it wasn't. We had to figure out our own rent. She didn't have anybody there for her. She was out there by herself in a place where it's not necessarily the most, fun place. It's Arkansas. Like, listen to what it sounds like. It's just a state that's just slow paced. You know what I mean? So now she's looking at me like, look, I hate it here. I don't want to be here, but I'm here because of you and your decision. This is a real conversation we had. She's like, I didn't want to be here. Everything was fine where we were at. You got in trouble. Now we're here. And I had to break myself down and realize, like, look, man, your decisions affect everybody, everyone, not just you, everyone. She has a right to be angry. She has a right to be upset because she uprooted her whole life for you. So I came to her one day and just asked her for forgiveness, put my face in her stomach and just cried, like, man, I hope you forgive me. I pray that, one day you seriously do let things go and we can move forward. That was it. She eventually said, I forgive you, and, I'm ready to move forward. A lot happened in Arkansas on the basketball side that was inopportune. I ended up not even playing. The NAIA didn't clear me to play, so I couldn't play. I was just basically out there as a regular student. I was just taking advantage of the time. Like, okay, well, I can now play and practice, stay fit, practice with the team, lift with the team, do everything with the team but play. So I'm like, oh, well, it's still beneficial. End of the school year rolls around, the coach gets fired, so I leave. I'm not coming back. My wife hates it here. It's not the best opportunity for me basketball, so we're out. We drive 10 hours across the country back to Ohio, and now during the summertime, I'm back in square one. No basketball, no opportunities yet, no real definition. But the difference is now my faith is strong enough to where I can say, Lord, I know you're going to take this over, and I know you're going to put me in a position that's going to be not only beneficial to me, but able to give you the glory from. So the whole time I'm at home, God is closing doors left and right. Some people are saying, we can take you, and then 2 days later, like, well, the administration doesn't like it, so we can't take you. So thanks, bye. Click. That happens like 6 times. Different schools, D1s, all over the place. Eventually, a mutual relationship with a coach, 2 coaches, opens up. I knew them before they got their coaching jobs. I just known them since I was about 13. They gave me a chance. It would be debt free. I would just be able to come play and take advantage. And that's what I did. I went. At that time, I'm sitting back thinking, like, okay, it's finally gonna work out. I'm gonna finish up basketball. The coach is telling me, like, you got a really good case to be able to play this year with the NCAA. You're gonna be fine. Just stay with it. I'm like, cool. So school year starts. We're going through preseason, and I hate preseason. Any athlete knows preseason is the worst time of the year. I don't care who you are. Don't get me wrong, I love grinding, I love getting better, but the preseason is the hardest grind to me. You got to deal with school on top of conditioning, weight, basketball workouts. It's just a lot going on, and it's really hard. So I'm going through the whole preseason process, and the coach is still telling me, like, hey, everything's cool. We get to about 2.5 weeks into school, and he pulls me into his office. He says, man, the NCAA didn't clear you to play. I'm like, well, I thought you said everything was cool. He was like, man, I don't know what happened. Obviously everything on our end is still gonna be good. You just, if you want, you can come back next year and play. The scholarship's still gonna be here for you. Obviously, you can finish this year debt free. But as far as playing this year, the NCAA said you practice more than 14 days with the NAIA team, so they're counting that as competition. I was like, you know what, man? It is what it is, whatever. So I kind of mentally, I'm like, it's another situation as the one you were just in. Just take advantage, practice, play, do what you can. Now, this coach specifically was a guy who's big on team GPA. He loved, like, his team GPA has to be high. And me, I'm not a student like that. I hate school. Personally. School's just not for everybody. I know how to do school well enough to where I'm eligible. I know how to excel in the areas I want to excel in, and the ones I don't care about, I'll get a good enough grade to where I'm not ineligible. But at the same time, I'm never, ask anybody who knows me, I'm never going to sugarcoat it. I don't like school. He pulls me into his office again. He's like, hey man, your GPA is kind of low. I was like, what do you mean? I'm not failing anything. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, our team GPA needs to be this, and your GPA is kind of pulling that down. So I think I'm going to move you off the NCAA roster. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, you're still going to be on scholarship, but as far as the NCAA is concerned, you're not on the team. And that hit me hard because I've never been in that situation before in college, where I'm now just a regular student. By NCAA rules, you can't show up to any practices or workouts or anything like that, but we still want you around. I'm like, what do you mean you still want me around? What does that mean? Like, what are you saying? Like, I was in such a angry mode. I just got up and left. Like, I was like, all right, whatever, and left. Now, mind you, my wife's not there, my son's not there. They're still living in Columbus. I'm like an hour and 15 away. I don't really have that go home and figure it out feeling. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I could place a phone call, but it's not the same as physically having someone there with you. So now I'm in a situation where I get semi-depressed. Depressed, like, what is going on? Like, what's happening? Everything was so good literally a week ago. Now I'm in a situation I can't even play basketball just like the last school, but the last school, I don't know, it wasn't the same feeling. I just felt so, it was like somebody took my heart. I'm in a state of depression. I gave up basketball at the time. I'm at the school, but I didn't care about anything. I stopped caring about class. I stopped caring about being in shape. I'm just like, man, I was just depressed. I was just like, man, I can't figure it out right now. You know what I mean? I can't win. I'm sitting looking at God like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm following this. I think I'm following the steps you putting out for me, but for some reason this is not working out for me. Like, what's up? A few weeks goes by. I'm still in that state where I'm just like, whatever. You know, I don't care about anything. Me and my wife ended up falling out in an argument, you know, so she's mad at me. School's messed up, basketball's messed up. I'm just like, I can't win. And then I get a call from a past coach that was recruiting me. I was originally going to the University of Cincinnati. Coach ended up leaving due to health issues, and come to find out years later, he got my number through a man who's like a second dad to me almost. He gets my number, he reaches out like, hey, I'm coaching in this professional league in Canada. I know you're still in school right now and everything like that, but if that doesn't work out, this league is here and I think you'll be perfect for it. There's a workout in Cincinnati coming up. You can go to it if you want. If not, you know, whatever, he was like, I'll be there. Know that if you choose to do this, it's in direct violation of NCAA rules, and you can't go back to school and get paid for it. I can go back to school, obviously, but they can't give me a scholarship as an amateur. I immediately called my dad. I talked to my wife. I talked to my cousin who's a professional. You know, I just was getting just wise counsel. I was just hearing from people. Eventually, it just clicked. Like, bro, you're asking everybody but God, man. You need to sit down and pray. Click, like, bro, you're asking everybody but God, man. You need to sit down and pray. I prayed, and God showed me the connections you have in your life aren't always for that moment. This man knew me back when I was like 16, 17, my junior year in high school. Now here I am in college in a situation that calls for this type of almost miracle to happen. This isn't a situation that just comes along. This coach knew me from a long time ago and just happened to think of me. I don't know. We hadn't talked in a long time. God told me, like, he doesn't put people in your life for no reason. They all serve a purpose. And his purpose at that time, back in high school, wasn't to be my college coach. It was to bring me to this league at this period in my life. I decided I'm going to the workout. I feel like I did really well at the workout. The guy who runs the league was there. Before I left on the second day, it was a 2-day workout. Before I left on the second day, he said, look, you shown me more than enough today. I feel like you're a heck of a player, and I know about your past. I know about everything that's going on with you, and I feel like you would still be a player that we want in our league. So you don't have to worry about making a team or anything like that. You're coming if you want to come. I came back to Columbus that night. Me and my wife talked. She was excited, and so was I, just because I'm now looking at a rebirth on a professional level. No one knows but me and my family. I prayed, and it was just over for that. I left Tiffin mid-semester. I didn't even finish the semester. I left. I was just like, man, I feel like this is what God is calling me for, so I'm leaving. I worked out hard for a couple months, went up there, and was ready to go. Honestly, professional game is totally different than any other game I had ever played. Playing with grown men who's playing for a check. Mentally, I had to reinvent my mind. I had to get out of the college mode. My career now is based on me. No one's going to push you to do anything. In college, people are pushing you to work. They have come to the gym. You know, coaches are calling you to get extra work and stuff like that. Now, if you don't get extra work, it's just going to show on the court. I told myself, this is a new beginning. Don't put yourself in a position you're going to sacrifice this for anybody. You know, the Lord opened his door for you. There were other situations that came up last minute that could have swayed me one way or the other, but I'm happy I stuck with what I did because it put me in a position that I'm in now. I played that whole season, no injuries, which is a blessing. I had a dominant season, which is a blessing. My family was able to come with me the whole time, so they got to experience Canada with me. They got to experience something new that they had never experienced. My wife had never been out of the country like that, and obviously my son hadn't either. You know, he got to have his birthday in Canada, so you know, it was a new beginning for all of us. It was almost like a breath of fresh air because after 2 years of doing nothing but believing God. His word finally came to fruition, and what it was me understanding that God doesn't do anything by accident. Everything that happened to me, from me getting in trouble, to me going to jail, to me going to school in Arkansas, to the D2 school, to now being a professional, was all to prepare me to be where I am now, to mentally prepare me, to physically prepare me, and to spiritually prepare me. Because if those things would have never happened, I don't think I would be the same mentally. At this point, I'm able to sit back and say, like, spiritually, I'm strong enough to say, this is going on, I need to go pray. This is going on, I need to go read. I need to go sit down with my wife and we need to pray together. Those conflict resolutions as far as life would have never came up mentally. Before, it was, this is going on, I need to go shoot. This is going on, I need to go hoop. This is going on, I need to go get some shots up. Basketball is my sanctuary. You'll hear a lot of basketball players say that. This is my place of peace. This is where I clear my mind at. And when you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you understand that it says in Philippians, He'll give you a peace that surpasses all understanding. A peace will fall on you that no one will ever be able to explain how it feels. It's happened to me multiple times in situations where I should have been frazzled and messed up. I was peaceful because I was leaning on God. Now today I'm able, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I still have my own struggles I'm dealing with. I'm only 23, so I deal with a lot of tugs and pulls at, hey, let's go here, let's do this, let's do that. The thing that keeps me straight is understanding that God gave me these tools and these pieces and these situations to be able to understand how to now deal with and live life at a better quality. The quality of life is better when you're following God's word and you're living in His will, honestly. And I'm honestly happy that these situations happened, because it made me a better man, basketball player, husband, father. Those 2 years of just dark days consecutively were honestly some of the best things that ever happened to me. And I say all that so people who are in these situations, like I keep saying in all the videos, people who are in negative situations, if you're sitting in your dark days and you don't really see any light, or you feel like you can't win right now, understand that turning to God, number one, is going to be to step into the light. Because at the end of the day, it may seem like, you have momentary success or momentary feelings of light, but you never really truly step out of the darkness until you step towards the light. And the light is Jesus to me. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in, but at the same time, I was there. Everything can be taken from you. Your freedom can be taken from you in a heartbeat. Understand that your dark days come to an end. The easiest way to get them to end productively is to follow what God has for you. Everybody's purpose is different. Everybody's mission is different. Everybody's life path is different. Trying to live your life like someone else isn't going to work for you, because you can't be that person. You're not going to have that person's exact experiences. So putting yourself in a position where you say, I'm about to live like this person, I'm about to follow this person's footsteps, isn't beneficial in the long run. As far as success goes, saying I'm gonna grind like this person, I'm gonna attack this like this person, that's a different story. But saying, I want to be like this person, you don't have the same life experiences as that person, so don't put yourself in that position. If you want to be like somebody, be like Christ. Try and follow in His steps, because at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to be more like Him, so you can experience the kingdom for everything that it has. And that's the realization I done came to, and I sit here today a better man for choosing that way. After all that time, after all those hardships, I can sit here today and say, 2 years ago, I was in jail. Today, I'm a professional athlete. Looking up, I'm doing what I choose to do. I can say honestly that this works for me. This has worked for a lot of people, man. So if anything, always remember that trust God until He gives you a reason not to. Because at the end of the day, that's all you got. Yourself and your relationship with God. Because when all this is over, when basketball is over, when I die, when I leave, only thing I'm going to be able to account for is my life and the way I live. The only thing you're going to be able to account for is your life and the way you live it. Why not live it the best way possible? Quick side note before I get out of here. The shirts. Somebody mentioned the shirt yesterday. I wore a Ripe shirt. That's what the brand is called, Ripe ATL. It's one of my homies' brands from the dude in Atlanta I was telling you about. If you like the shirts, I'm going to put the link in the bio to the website where you can shop. There's shoes on there. He does sneaker exchange, sells shoes. He has the clothing line. Dude got a lot popping off. So if you enjoy the clothes, or if you're just kind of interested, check out the site. It's not really expensive. It's not like you busting your bank. You spend money on everything else anyway. Why not get some quality clothes? Because it's more than a clothing brand. The message behind it is something I can mess with. I don't endorse stuff just because it's a friend. I endorse it because of the message, and the message is serious. So go check that out. The content is coming. Trust me. I made a rookie mistake this morning and didn't charge my batteries last night, so my camera was not working to go to the gym, and I was salty. Major announcements will be made on here soon. Just stay tuned. Subscribe if this is your first time coming through. If you're already a subscriber, I appreciate you. It's nothing but love. I'm not on here for the views, the likes, none of that. I'm on here trying to help out those who need it, spread positive vibes. Much love to everybody, man. I appreciate y'all, and I'm gonna just see you next time, man.